There are thumbnails that come across my sphere of artists I may have heard of, but I don't know. But sometimes the thumbnail is so intriguing that I just have to see what this is about. Ben Caplan is a musician, Canadian singer-songwriter, and folk musician known for his powerful voice, stage presence, and genre-blending music. Oh, I thought it was muted.
I wake up to the tolling of the bell, and I feel the water swell.
Oh my word.
It's been coming up slowly, rising. Hard to believe that it's not surprising. I lost the foreground watching the horizon.
His voice.
The rising tide doesn't raise our boats. There's some of us who can't float. Some of us are working in the mud. Not being innocent, don't make me guilty. You can't keep your hands clean when it's filthy. See the water dimmed with human blood. There's no justice drowning in the flood.
Wow. Okay. What in the unicorn farts? I want to know how he recorded this. How did they do this music video? Is there an element of AI or did he do this all by himself? As in, like, it's him underwater singing, acting. The beard and the hair in the water is wild. His facial expression is wild. His voice and the musical composition is so unique. That staccato of the piano, of the keys coming in, and the drums and the but even these almost this almost it's almost chaotic sounding with these elements well put together, very unique.
I wake up as the light begins to bend, and I watch the night descend. After a dutiful lifetime of dreams, trickling riches and muffled screams, the center can't hold it, gyres to the extremes. The rising tide doesn't raise our boats. There's some of us who can't float. Some of us are working in the mud. Not being innocent, don't make me guilty. You can't keep your hands clean when it's filthy. Don't make me guilty. You can't keep your hands clean when it's filthy. See the water dimmed with human blood.
That hook, dun da 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 dun da 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 dun. What does that remind me of? Is there another song that comes to your mind with that type of melody or feel? Let me know in the comments. But this is so freaking catchy, and the lyrics are deep.
There's no justice drowning in the flood.
Ah. Wow. See what I'm talking about?
Doesn't raise our boats. There's some of us who can't float. Some of us are working in the mud. Not being innocent, don't make me guilty. You can't keep your hands clean when it's filthy. See the water dimmed with human blood. There's no justice drowning in the flood.
That was crazy good. That was incredibly artistic. Is he trying to get that piano out of the wall? Oh, I see what's happening here. That was poignant, that ending. That was incredibly good. Okay, subscribe to Ben Caplan. This song is getting traction, but he doesn't have nearly as many subscribers as he should. This guy is incredibly talented. There's so much we can talk about right now, but I don't want to overwhelm you. Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. First of all, go subscribe to Ben Caplan. I hope I'm saying his name right. Forgive me if not. Also, subscribe here for music from around the world, psychology, philosophy. Um, so the thing that comes to my mind, there's a lot of parts. Let me start at the end so I don't forget my thought. Number one, him trying to get the piano out of the water or swimming along with it as if holding on to it and trying to possibly get it out fits to this idea of some of us are drowning. I'm trying to get this out of the water and I just can't. It's interesting that this is such a decayed, old piano instrument in the water because that too, I feel like implies this idea of I've been doing this for a long time. I've been trying my hardest to get it out of the water. I've been stuck in this mud, in this water for a long time. There is stuff growing on top of this piano. We've been down here. I'm not new to this. This is not a brand new piano in the water. Also, it fits to this idea of it's not like I'm not trying, right? He's kicking and swimming and he's holding on to it, trying to survive. One could argue, why don't you just get out of the water, leave the piano be? But that's who he is. That's part of him. He's a musician. This is his piano. And also, maybe he's holding on to it to stay afloat. Maybe he's not just trying to lift it out, but he's trying to survive, which a lot of people are doing. There are sayings like a rising tide lifts all boats. And I like that saying. I've heard other people say it because I think it implies, hey, if I do something good, and say, for example, if I have a good mindset about it and I'm succeeding, I can now lift other people up. I believe Ren, the artist Ren, has possibly said that before, or people have quoted him to have said that. And he would be one of those people where he tries to do that. He's the kind of person where he's not just been rising himself, he pulls other people with him. He does collabs with other people. He appreciates the reaction community that has contributed to putting his music on the map some more, right? So him rising up is his opportunity to take other people with him, help other people, raise awareness, encourage other people, etc. And there's validity to that statement, in my opinion. But this song, I feel, talks about the all other side of that conversation, or the other side of that coin in my mind, which is that the rising flood, the rising waters don't always lift all boats. There are people who are really struggling, who don't get lucky or get help, or who are working in the mud. No matter how much the flood rises and other people are lifted up, some people are stuck down there. And then as the lyrics continue and it says, just because I'm not innocent doesn't mean I'm guilty. If I got the lyrics right, I need to pull it up. That was poignant too, because I think while we have sayings such as innocent till proven guilty, and then there are some who are quick to condemn and call someone guilty without doing the due diligence, this statement, not being innocent, don't make me guilty, I think is interesting. Because when we look at people from an economic standpoint, socially, psychologically, and we see people that are struggling, that may not be perfect. They may have made choices in their life that have led them to where they are, financial struggle, homelessness, or different issues. They may not be innocent in that sense, that they, have it all figured out and they're innocent. They've never made a mistake. They may not be innocent anymore, but that doesn't make them guilty. And I think we humans have this tendency to see someone struggling, hurting, down in the dumps. And we know that they're not innocent. They're maybe not innocent like children would be, right? They're not innocent in the sense that they've been affected by life. Maybe have made some choices or things have been done to them. They are not perfectly innocent, but that does not make them guilty. And we tend to, because our mind, for different reasons, some people might just be straight up unkind and inconsiderate. Other people, they're just trying to make sense of that cognitive dissonance. And so they just try to slap a label on it. Well, this just this, and if they would have just that, then this would have happened. Sometimes it gives people a sense of control, right? When you can create a label and say, oh, this person is just homeless because of this and that, and if they only did this, then they wouldn't have that, right? We want to control the situation. We want to throw a label on it. Sometimes it's to make ourselves feel better, right? Because we are ashamed, because we feel helpless, or because we feel guilty that we're not helping. And so now we want to justify this person is just working in the mud for this and that reason. Different things that people do, different people, different situations. And but it is a human thing, I think, at times, that we want to see someone who is not innocent and we assume they're guilty then. And I love that lyric, which stood out to me, implies exactly that. Not being innocent don't make me guilty. A person that may have made choices or is in a certain situation in life and is no longer necessarily innocent is also, however, not guilty or bad or evil or a failure. The rising tide doesn't rise all boats. There are some of us who can't float. And I like that this song to me is for the underdog and for the people who aren't affected by the rising tide, who are working in the mud, who are affected by humanity, not just individual choices, but humanity as a whole. See the water dimmed with human blood. There's no justice drowning in the flood. The water is dimmed with human blood. And to me, that makes me think, for one, that some people become collateral damage. No matter how much they try to do good or live their life to the best of their ability, they become collateral damage to the choices of other people. It makes me think that what we have done as people to one another dims the water, the human blood that is shed in literally and also emotionally, metaphorically speaking. And to then say there's no justice, drowning in the water, drowning in the flood is poignant to me because it makes me think of all the different flood theories. We know of the big one, Noah, right? And the flood story of Noah. But there's many other stories from different cultures. The Epic of Gilgamesh, the Mesopotamian story. We know of the Manu Matsya flood myth, which we find in Hinduism, Greek mythology. We have Chinese mythology and tales of floods. Different religions, different traditions that all speak about floods. And of course, the details vary and the exact setup or the people and the names. But you have this idea of a flood. And using the example of Noah, you have a man who is considered righteous before God, who gets to take his family and pairs of all the animals and is told to build an ark. And of course, it depends on your theological interpretation of the story. But correct me if I'm wrong, if you disagree. I think the general idea of it would be, well, those who are good got to stay in the flood, and that just happens to be just one family, but everyone else was swept away. And perhaps that was justice. Perhaps that was just what needed to be done to clean the earth. God was mad with what he saw. People were wicked. We're going to wash it all clean. Did that really happen? Was there a flood? I don't know. There are various tales and myths of one. Could it be that there was one, since there's so many different traditions across history that speak of one? Sure. Could it have been more than one? Sure. I don't know. Right? There's these possibilities scientifically and historically speaking of floods. To what extent and how big and how vast they were, we don't know. Right? It's very many different theories and thoughts. But we all, I think, as people, have this tendency to think, well, maybe that's just the solution. When we're dirty, we just got to take a bath. When things are messy, let's just give it a clean slate. When there's too much on the board, just wipe it away, right? There's this idea of that gives me a fresh start, clean slate, wash it clean. And so I think regardless if those floods actually happened or not, if they're a human attempt at trying to record something that was intense and severe to people, regardless if it's hyperboles or simply myths or a mix of science and myth, I think it speaks to our human desire or human tendency to think that that's the solution to things. Wash it away, clean it up, clean slate. And I think many people then associate that with justice or with that's just the natural way it is. You don't do right, you're going to be swept away. Different ways to take that. And to have a lyric that says there's no justice drowning in the flood is interesting because I take that a couple of ways. First of all, it's not just that there are people who are working in the mud and whose boat doesn't get raised by the rising tide. There's no justice in drowning. There's nothing pretty about that. It sucks. And there's nothing just about being someone that is drowning. I also wonder if that's a little nod to these flood myths and this idea of it being just when evil people are swept away. And maybe with this lyric saying there is no justice in that, though. There's nothing just about drowning or about it all being about, suffocating, underwater, drowning. I wake up as the light begins to bend and I watch the night descend. I just love the poetry here and the wordsmithery and just the way that these words are being used to paint a beautiful picture. After a dutiful lifetime of dreams, trickling riches and muffled screams. I love when I see literary art and songwriting. The center can't hold. It gyres to the extremes. Trickling riches and muffled screams. Very beautifully written, but also very painful because I'm thinking of flood, I'm thinking of drowning, a muffled scream and trickling riches. I think this could be interpreted from a mental health standpoint, people that are drowning in their grief and anxiety and depression, where the riches, the good things are trickling, where the screams are muffled, you can't hear it. You're drowning in your sorrow and pain. I do think this could be interpreted in an economic or socioeconomic sense, in the sense of people that are poor, that are struggling, riches are trickling, money is coming in very, very slowly. The scream is muffled, the suffering. The center can't hold, it gyres to the extremes. That too could be a conversation about politics and economics, right? right? These extremes between left and right, between rich and poor, where the middle class or those that are barely making it by, it can't hold because we constantly find ourselves in those extremes between the uber wealthy and the very poor. And then it goes back to that chorus. And just the way he was acting, the beard and the hair, of course, adding so much effect. His voice, incredibly unique. So viel Wiedererkennungswert. So much just recognitional value where you hear it and you go, that's Ben. Boah. The richness, the timbre of his voice, the fullness. It was like the roaring oak tree, hugging a roaring oak tree as you're sipping on the finest of whiskeys with a cigar in your mouth and a fire ablaze in the side as the wind blows through your hair and you get rained on. I don't know. I'm just trying to paint it like a poetic and dramatic picture. That's what that guy's voice is to me. Absolutely beautiful. And then the musical composition, the piano, that crescendo, like I said, the chaotic elements, the modern elements mixed in with your very dramatic way of playing that what I think would be a grand piano. Absolutely beautiful. But the composition was so unique. It was not just your typical dramatic piano piece. I mean, it was so many elements that mixed what is beauty in music and what is music that has shaped history with those modern elements of keeping it funky and fresh and entertaining. And then just simply the lyrics. I love that you have such a musical art piece, something that's so funky and enjoyable to listen to. I want to listen to this again. It's a piece I want to listen to again. And I like that when you have art where you can just take in, but it's not something you're going to keep listening to. This one was catchy and could be on a playlist, but at the same time, so profound, really opening a door to some good conversations that you could take different ways: mental health, society, economics, politics. And I like that. I like that he is having some serious conversations, opening the door for critical thinking skills, which we definitely need in our day and age. Absolutely amazing. I liked it. I subscribed. Please go check Ben Caplan out on YouTube. Subscribe to him. He may have some shows coming up at some point. This is incredible. Absolutely incredible. Subscribe for more. I'll see you on the next ride.